We are going live. We are live. Welcome to Tesla Talks podcast, folks, on a special edition of Tesla Talks podcast. It is a battery day, and we're going to have a little post discussion about battery. I've got three of my closest Tesla battery geek friends here from YouTube. We'll start from top. We'll go down to the bottom. Trevor from the Model 3 Owners Club. Hi, welcome, Trevor.
Tesla owners online, but yes, Model 3 Owners Club. Old habits die hard, right?
Well, no. Well, I'm reading your thing. Model 3 Owners.
That's my Twitter handle.
Okay. Twitter handle. Sorry. Yes. Old habits.
I'm gonna change it. No
you're right. You got me all flustered now. Yeah. Old habits do die young. Going down to the bottom, right below Trevor, we have Paul, aka Tesla Canuck. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for joining us. This is perfect. Everyone that's watching at home can see that Paul, right after this podcast, he's just going to slip into bed. I know it's not a bed, but from this angle, buddy, it looks like a bed.
Yeah, it's just a spare room. My wife's got a meeting, so she's like, I can't be in my regular space. So this is what you guys see. I did bring the hat up. I brought the hat up.
It's a good space. Yeah, I see that. I see that little Tesla paraphernalia.
He's got
my rare Tesla shirt on too.
And so. Trevor's got his, rocking his, and of course, last but
I
not
got
least,
Tesla underwear, but I don't know if I'm going to show them.
No.
Short shorts. Booties. Okay, next topic.
Last but not least, we have Franklin, Mother Frunker.
Hey, how's it going?
Say that five times fast.
Yes, how's it going, buddy?
Good.
Yeah, and anyone that watches or listens to our podcast knows Franklin is a staple, and he's brought along some Tesla paraphernalia too, in the forms of his background.
I'm wearing one too.
Are you? Oh, there you go.
Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Elon's smoking a doob.
We're all Tesla geeks here.
Yeah, I couldn't find any of my Tesla shirts, and I got like 15 of them. So I don't know what the hell's going on.
You're in the spare bedroom. You can't find any of your Tesla shirts. Your wife's in a meeting.
I'm busted.
Yes, buddy. Yes. You don't have to come out
it's
here.
Actually, the doghouse.
Yes,
I'm in the doghouse.
Let's talk a little bit about Battery Day, folks. This is why we're all here. That's why I got all you guys to come on, and we just finished watching it. It's probably finished about maybe 40 minutes ago or so after the Q&A. And I took a little bit of notes. I'm sure you guys took notes, but they first started off before Battery Day, the talk and everything. They started off with the shareholders meeting. Does anyone, by show of hands, did anyone else find that snorkel? Yes.
Wow. I was driving home at the time, but it's a good thing I had the autopilot on because
that was
a snore fest.
Trevor, go ahead.
I was going to say they did share some interesting stuff throughout it. It's stuff we all, if you're like us and you're hardcore into Tesla, you've been they did the whole year in review, and we've been following it every day, never mind week. So it's like, okay, cool. We know what they've done, but it is kind of cool to see it as like all like, hey, this is what happened this from January forward till now, right? So it was cool to see in that perspective.
Yeah.
But if you're like us, who literally wake up and start reading about Tesla stuff, it wasn't as interesting as it could have been.
Yeah, Trevor, I think you found it probably out of all of us the most interesting. Because
the shareholder part or the battery days?
No, the shareholder part.
I don't know. It's different this time around compared in the past. I've followed it for quite some time, and this one was quite unique and novel in the sense that because of the pandemic situation, that they set up what looked like basically a drive-in. Everybody had a Model Y, and they were given numbers, and there's a number on the car, and you sit in the car, and not only could you watch the screen up there, but they also had it on the computer screen. So I thought it was a very novel approach for doing it. As
the
far
honking
as
was cool.
Yeah, well, see, I was told because I have a few people that are down there attending it, and they told me that they were specifically told not to honk.
So of course,
I didn't know that.
So of course, what are they going to do? They're going to honk, right? So Elon's Elon doesn't care. He's just
surprised they didn't disable the honk on the cars.
Up there.
They did have pin to drive turned on, so the cars were immobile. They could not move them.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a novel approach. As far as the content was concerned, yeah, it's pretty dry stuff, and they have to do the usual voting and stuff, and
Yeah.
And then I don't know what happened, but somebody let a Tesla Q guy on there, and he started asking about questions about
child labor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
child
what
labor
the hell
and
was
human
that all
ethics
about?
and all this other
Yeah.
stuff. It's just like, oh guys, come on, like it
Yeah.
can't be
Big
nearly
oil
that
planted
bad.
somebody.
Well,
Oh, geez. Well, I guess anyone could be a shareholder, right? They can't control who can be a shareholder, so that's what you get, I guess. And I mean, listen, we're not saying that any of us here condone not having human rights and child labor stuff like that, but really the way that was worded, and I'll be honest, I only listened to it for a little bit until I was just like, really, are we going there? It was just too much.
Is that the guy that said to use drones?
Yes.
Yeah, use drones in the mining. Yeah. Okay. Serious issue, but I don't,
Yeah, like I said, and that's what I was prefacing it with. It is a serious issue, but like, is that the platform to do it? But like Trevor said, I never thought of it until you just said it. Yeah, maybe it was a short. Yeah,
I would say that Tesla probably has the better record of other companies, just by virtue of what they stand for. So I'd be very surprised if Tesla was the worst offender. When it comes to this stuff.
I think the other thing too, it's important to remember that Tesla so far, I mean, there have been many attempts to try and unionize their workforce, and they've all failed. Mainly because the people that work there don't want anything to do with the unions. Not in the sense that Tesla is actively discouraging it, although there's probably a little bit of that going on. But I mean, I've never been in a union before, but I know a lot of people that are in there. And the thing, the way I look at unions, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but unions were formed back in the early days when companies would abuse employees and take all kinds of liberties with privileges and stuff. So the unions basically came in and says, listen, you can't treat us like that. The problem is that over the years, the unions have gotten so powerful in these companies now, and they've all organized that, I mean, they can't even talk to bosses anymore. There's so many different layers, so it's very, very inefficient. And of course, if you look at the way Tesla operates, efficiency matters above all else. So for them, I think in a lot of ways, the unions don't make sense. So is this another union tactic? I don't know, and I don't want to make this into a political situation, but sometimes you got to look at it from both sides and say, okay, where's this really coming for? Is it a short? Is it a union? Is it a combination of both? I don't know.
No, you're right.
Right? So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they did say something, right? And I think you have these problems extend into every company, right? Yeah. And they said, like, if there is something going on, they try to tackle it as quick as possible. And it wasn't directed to that, but it was directed to all problems within the company, right? And they try to tackle it as quick as possible. And if it's happening, if they're not aware of it, I mean, if they're not aware of something, they can't correct the situation if they're not aware, right? And when they do become aware, they're going to correct it. And I think this kind of applies to any company, not just Tesla, right? So it's more along the lines of, I mean, it could be, but
well, remember, anything with Tesla gets a lot of headlines. So whether it's warranted or not. True.
Okay, so that was basically the shareholders meeting, and it was about 15, 20 minutes long, maybe.
Mercifully short.
We had a question about it. The guy who suggested Tesla do advertisement, was that the same guy as last time? Anyone know?
What was the name?
I don't know the guy, but this is the question in the chats here.
Oh yeah! By the way, thanks for everyone that's watching online live as we go in the YouTube chat. If you have any questions, like Franklin always does every week, he just monitors it, and I'll try to monitor it too as we talk. Just leave your question if you have a question, and we'll get to it. Maybe not instantly, but after we finish off our conversation or our train of thought, we'll get to it. But thanks for everyone that's chiming in. Is this the one you're talking about? By Martin?
Yeah, Martin said if the guy suggested advertisement, if he's the same one who suggested it the last time.
Probably. That was the very first one, right? That was the very first speech.
Yeah. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Vote.
Well, what was it about? Is it about advertising on TV, like as far as the product goes, or was this like some other type of like
he just
putting ads on the Tesla app?
No, he just wants Tesla to advertise like how other car manufacturers advertise when
TV spots,
TV or YouTube or social media. or billboards even.
They don't
my
need
personal
to.
opinion. No, well, that's my personal opinion on this. Is Tesla does do advertising. It's just not the traditional sense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, they got social media presence. I mean, Elon, and of course, every Tesla owner these days
Elon's
seems to have
army.
a YouTube channel or a Twitter feed.
Yeah.
So they do plenty of advertising that ways. And the thing is, you have to remember, the best type of advertising is word of mouth. Mm-hmm. Right?
He actually mentioned that, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, that's been a long time thing with Elon. The thing is, you have to remember, the reason you advertise in traditional media is to generate demand for something. Like, introducing the new 2022 XYZ vehicle, right? Nobody's going to know about this car unless you advertise for it and you generate that demand. Tesla has a problem with production. The last thing you want to do is make a problem worse than it is by generating extra demand you can't even meet in the first place.
Exactly.
I mean, the reason we have battery days is because they can't make enough freaking batteries.
Yeah. That's exactly it. I don't think it's a matter that they don't want to advertise. Well, it's not that they can't afford to advertise or they know they should and just can't get to it. It's, I think, like exactly what Trevor says. It's a matter of production. They can't keep up with what they have, the demand they have now. Can you imagine if they advertise? Like, that would just open a whole new kettle of fish and give them even more hurt.
There's a coworker I was talking to. He told me about a month ago he went and bought a car. And he went to, your traditional lots to go look. And they had so many cars there that they cannot get rid of. Like, they're trying to give them away because their lots are filled. And if you go on the Tesla website right now and you look up the Model 3, at least for where we are in Canada, you're looking at 6 to 10 weeks of delivery before you even take delivery. So, you're looking at, 3 months, 2.5 to 3 months before you get your car, versus you go to a traditional car maker who literally has their lots. Yeah, pick any one. And their lots are filled and they can't get rid of them.
And that's already a 3-year-old car.
Yeah. So...
Well, you have to remember, it's a different business model because the traditional car manufacturers, their customer is not you. It's not me. It's the dealer network. Exactly. Once the car leaves the manufacturing plant, it's already sold to a dealer that's going to go and sit on a lot. They then have to work to resell it to a customer. Every car, short of a small percentage of them that Tesla does have for inventory, are all pre-sold. So it's a different way of doing business. And like I said, the last thing it's...
Well, do you want that it's what Trevor was saying, right? That 10-week, not like 6 to 10 weeks will jump up if you're advertising.
Unless you're not picky and you can just pick whatever color you want. Maybe we have something. It may not be exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Right?
But I mean, if that number jumps up to like...
double or triple,
customers are going to be angry. So...
And people are angry enough as it is.
Exactly. It'll
for a variety of different reasons.
Yeah.
But
I think Tesla's figured that out, that it would be it would backfire for them. So right after that, we had a little break, and there was some people dancing while they came out of the cars.
Okay, as I was telling the Dax before we came on the show, did you see I got my friend Raj to dance on screen for us? So
did you tweet him or something?
Yeah, well, I FaceTimed him. And I said, "Hey, Raj, come into the," because I knew he was there, right? Is this your car? He says, "Yeah." And he was over talking to the side, and I said to Raj, "Come on over between the cars, right by where the stage is, right? Yes, this is the video." So he says, "Yeah, okay." So I said, "You just get a wave at me on screen, and I'll capture it." Well,
that's Raj.
Not only did he, no, that's Raj in the blue shirt right there.
Yeah, right there.
So I was talking to him right there. I was saying, "Turn around. Where's the camera?" He didn't know what the camera was. So he finally turned around. That's John from Silicon Valley Owners Club there beside him. So then he pointed at the camera. I said, "Raj, wave." So not only did he wave, he actually did this. So I captured it with my phone and I tweeted it out for the world to see. My good friend Raj having a little
Tesla
fun.
Raj.
That's going to be a GIF one of these days.
Oh, you definitely got to do that, Trevor.
He has some amazing ones.
I will put it on.
I see some amazing ones he has already up on Twitter. People share his GIFs all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go put it on Tenor. So.
Yeah, well, perfect.
For anyone listening and not watching at home, you have to go to Trevor's. What would it be? It would be
my Twitter
Model
feed.
3 owners.
Yeah, Trevor's Twitter handle at
Tesla Owners Online.
Yeah, anyone should know you, anyways. I wasn't going to give that out, but that's right. But I was going to say,
makes me feel funny.
I was going to say, so around 6 p.m. on the 22nd. Look for that tweet, or were you doing a tweet storm at that point?
Well, you just go to my profile and click media, and then you'll see all the pictures. Okay. And the video will be in there.
There you go.
Yeah, but it's pretty funny.
It's a must see.
Yeah,
it is funny. A must see.
That one's going down in history.
Yes. So right after the dance break, we actually started having the actual battery day. And what was I took notes, but I forgot to get the guy's name. Who was the guy that was on stage with Elon?
Oh, I didn't catch the name. Is that Drew?
Is something. Drew.
Is that Drew Bagliano? Is that him?
Yeah.
Okay. And he's the VP of battery and engineering or something like that it was? Or
battery and powertrain?
Powertrain.
That sounds about right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So they started up, and we're not going to go through the whole step-by-step thing, but they started up, and the first thing I learned is you can't say gigawatt anymore. Gigawatt is so 2020. The new term for 2021 is terawatt. And they explained what terawatt is, and
sorry.
Are you still listening to this?
I'm editing the video right now.
Oh, I thought you were laughing at my terawatt thing. So yeah, it was terawatt, and they came out like right out of the gates. They said what they all wanted us to know, that basically they're going to make the batteries 56% cheaper.
Yeah, and they have like 5 ways they're going to do that. It was well laid out, even for someone who doesn't understand battery technology. It was pretty easy to follow in terms of their path.
There is it's a little blurry there, but there was a third one too. I didn't get that one, but that's basically one side of the screen. There is the range increase, and in the middle one is what we're talking about: 56% dollars per kilowatt hour reduction. And then and you're right, Paul. They went through 5 different categories. I don't know if I can read there. It's so blurry here. Cell design, which was going to shave 14% off. Then the cell factory, which was going to be 18%. The anode material, 5%. I'm just going through these really fast. 12% for the cathode material. And then the last 7%
was interesting.
The cell vehicle integration. Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. And that's what I found one of the most interesting stuff. Only because I understood it. The other stuff I really didn't understand.
Well, I think it was great. Like the analogy that Elon used, everyone could understand, right? Where the airplane wing is the fuel tank, right?
Yeah,
and so you're going to put the batteries into the structure of the vehicle. I mean, it's brilliant. Right.
So this is not the first time that Elon has mentioned. I mean, we're kind of jumping around here, but if you go to the end of the scale, like we were just talking about, the vehicle integration part, we can probably talk about the cells here in a second. But if you go to the other end extreme, if you had watched the one interview that Elon did with the guys there from the Third Row podcast, Elon hinted at that. He says, it doesn't really make sense for us to do modules anymore. It's actually better for us to have a box and just drop all the cells in it, and we just integrate that into the car. So that was Elon. And when he said that, it cemented right in my brain. He says, he's just dropping a big hint about a direction that's going to take. And I was waiting for that shoe to drop.
I forgot about that. Yes.
No. He definitely mentioned that. And that makes perfect sense. And the way that Tesla's operated in the past is, again, everything's an evolution. They did modules at the start. When they developed the Model S, they built actually it kind of goes back to the Roadster in a lot of ways, but they weren't called modules at the time. They're called sheets. But same principle in the sense that they thought that at some point, because the battery technology that they were developing was so new, that they thought if they ever had a problem with one of the batteries, they could take it apart, change out the one module, swap out the module, you're good as gold. The problem is that because they ended up sealing these batteries so tight, if you've ever seen a Model S battery, basically you're destroying it in the process of trying to open it. All you have to do is watch a Rich Rebuilds video to see him taking batteries apart.
Yeah.
So even though, yes, the modules are modular and they're highly coveted for people doing solar energy storage and stuff, that the process of opening up the battery destroys the box. So when they went and developed the Model 3 battery, they just kind of simplified the modules. It doesn't have 16 anymore. It has 4 modules, and they're non-user serviceable. Because this was a progress that Tesla did. They originally had designed the battery to be serviceable. Turned out it didn't turn out to be serviceable. They simplified it for Model 3, and now they're just taking it to the next extreme in the sense that, and this is part of their secret sauce, of course, they don't really talk about, because they do have a patent on this, and it has to do with the thermal management of these cans and how they're flowing the stuff anymore. Anyways, the bottom line is that they are still going to get the series and parallel that they need to do in order to get the voltage up and the amperages up. But they're going to do it in a different manner now. So instead of having individualized modules sitting in these little walled gardens, so to speak, that it's just going to be, according to the patents that I've seen, that these cells are just going to be in a bath. So the liquid coolant is going to flow inside this box just kind of freely instead of going through little lasagna noodles between the cells. And that's how they're going to cool it. Now, the other advantage, of course, is going to a larger can obviously has trade-offs. So when you go to a larger can, you don't have as much surface area to dissipate from the middle of the cell. So that's why they developed the tabless technology. So instead of having one tab that moves all the electrons, the whole jelly roll has a tab around it, and they've spliced it in such a way they can fold it in. So by that, you reduce the resistance of the battery, which is what generates heat. And because it generates less heat, you can build a bigger can, and you can do with a different cooling mechanism that they've done in the past. Anyways, bottom line, it's very ingenious what they've come out with. But it's a pilot line, and it's going to take 1.5 to 2 years for them to get volume production up. And that's why we can't have Roadsters and Cybertrucks and semis yet, because they need these cells. And they need the cost reductions, too, because they've also announced that they're going to be doing a $25,000 car. You can't build a $25,000 car using Model 3 batteries right now. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, Trevor. I've got a
Show's
list.
over.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Thank you very much.
You said a Costanza, you can leave.
I have a list of things that, like talking points, the little notes that I made throughout the whole event, and you touched on almost like every single one.
Oh, okay. Well,
the only thing you didn't touch on was the Plaid, and we're going to get to that. So don't say.
All right,
okay.
so shortest episode, under 25 minutes.
I know, and then half of that.
I make it seem simple. There's a lot more to it, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you did, and I was going to say a lot of that went over my head in terms of what you were saying and what they were saying about the jelly rolls and stuff like that. But yes, your original point, the battery pack now is going to be more condensed, more in the center, they're saying, so there's no risk of it.
It's more structural to the car now. It's actually integral to the structure of the vehicle.
It's better handling.
I mean, for those of you who might be joining the show that don't really know how Teslas are built, basically you've got this battery box that weighs 1,000 to 1,200 pounds. And then it's bolted to the underside of the car. And it's actually a shell that's got a hollow space to accommodate the battery. Basically, what Tesla's doing now is because they're moving to this mega casting, which is another thing we can talk about, where, see, if you look at a Model 3, one of the biggest complaints that say, Sandy Munro has had, a longtime engineer in the automotive industry, who took apart an early Model 3 and said there's no reason in hell why the back of this car has to have some 75 parts. They could reduce it. So Tesla took that to heart and said, yeah, you're right. So let's take 75 parts or 71 parts, whatever the number is, and we'll reduce it down to one part. So that's essentially what Tesla's doing right now. So they've actually simplified that. Now, the way that the Model Y rear end is built is not only is it mega casting, but the actual rear bumper is not installed till later. And because the tub or the rear trunk now is actually a plastic part that they just kind of drop in. One of the things that it does is it allows a much better ingress into the back of the vehicle for the line workers, so they can get inside the car and they do headliner stuff without having to crawl inside the car. So there are some benefits to doing it that way. So one of the things that they've done, of course, with the battery as being a structural element of the car, meaning that things will be bolted to the battery pack rather than the battery pack being bolted to the chassis of the car, is that now it's designed to be much more robust. A lot of this comes from the fact that they're not doing compartmentalization anymore. They can build a more robust battery pack as a shell. They've got fluid running through it. Anyways, devil's into details. We'll know more about that when the cars actually come out and they actually tear these battery packs apart. That makes my little beanie propeller spin. I really want to see the inside of this battery pack.
Yeah, and like you said, probably in about 1.5 to 3 years. I think they're erring on a side of caution.
The first 3 cars that are going to get this is Cybertruck. Cybertruck doesn't happen without this battery breakthrough in the cost, right? You can't get a $40,000 car that equipped without having some kind of cost reduction. Battery pack is the natural thing.
But
right?
Did I miss that? Did they mention could it be in a Cybertruck, or did
definitely
they?
Will be in the Cybertruck?
Yeah, I know.
Will be.
I assume that, but did they mention it today? Because
there's several hints. If you listen to the last earnings call, Elon said Cybertruck Roadster is 12 to 18 months. He said it again today, 12 to 18 months. Cybertruck is specifically mentioned as future products in Elon's tweet from yesterday. Cybertruck Roadster and Semi. These are all future products, right?
What was the original anticipated ship of the Cybertruck, though? It was end of 2021,
late
wasn't it?
late 2021.
Do you think that is not going to happen then at this point?
I think they will do, the initial, here's 50 trucks just to kind of, right? We obviously won't see them in Canada for at least 6 months. Well, 5 to 6 months. Model Y was kind of an outlier in that case, but one of the benefits is you get a better product out of the deal, right? You don't
for sure. I'd rather wait
the line with a model.
for the better batteries, right?
So that obviously the Roadster is going to get that because the Roadster just needs a bigger battery pack. You can't get a 200 kilowatt hour battery pack using existing technology. I don't think, anyways. Semi-truck, I mean, it needs a lot of cells.
Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff is cost reduction. I mean, you have to remember with Tesla, they're always looking. Well, in the case of I don't know about the Cybertruck, but the semi-truck was announced back in December of 2017. That's already like 3 years ago.
Yeah. How about the Roadster?
The Roadster was at the same time. The Roadster was supposed to be out this year.
Yeah.
And it's been delayed. So I think a lot of this came into play in the sense that they had hoped to be at a certain level. Obviously, they're not there yet. They're doing a pilot line. They've pushed that off to the end of next year. So I think a lot of these products got it pushed because they wanted to implement this new technology, and it's part and parcel to the cost reduction.
Yeah.
Well, the Plaid S is end of 2021, right? That's what
exactly another reason why that car was delayed. It needs this new battery pack. Plus, it's also convenient because it gives them more time to do the other things. Refreshed interior, probably a slightly better body. Who knows?
Do you have any inside scoop on that, Trevor? Like the refresh?
No. Well, Electric got a scoop. I think it was last year or the year before where they had gotten a hold of a concept drawing of the interior of the Model S that showed obviously a horizontal screen, basically a Model 3 treatment, which makes perfect sense because if you look at the Cybertruck and the Semi, they all have that Model 3 treatment. The new HVAC system, the horizontal screen. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see exactly where Tesla's going with that. So it makes perfect sense to migrate the S and the X, essentially the same vehicle, over to that orientation. So that's exactly what that concept did. My understanding is that, and I did hear from someone else.
That's why I asked you.
That it was on the plate. It was supposed to happen last year, but because of the ramp of the Model 3 consumed so many resources from Tesla from other areas, it was put on the back burner.
So I guess it makes sense for them to do it with the Plaid S, right? All in one go.
Well, Tesla's been pretty good about doing constant updates. I mean, these rolling changes that they make to the cars. The Model S, even though it looks the same, has seen a lot of changes over the years.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're an insider and you really know the cars, you can't really tell them apart. The seats have gone through 5 different changes. The interior has gone through, little improvements here and there, colors and changes. Drivetrain's almost completely new in the car, much better motors. Battery pack has changed.
Suspension.
So the car is, so the car has seen a lot of changes, but the body, by and large, still looks the same. They haven't changed the headlights. They changed the front end a little bit. Actually, the front end is more than just plastic. There's quite a bit of changes under that hood. So it's seen a natural progression, but, in Tesla, in my opinion, does deliberate, simple interiors so that it actually makes the cars age more gracefully. But Model S is 8 years old now. And I know for a lot of people that when they're spending that kind of money, and maybe they're coming from a Porsche or, a German car or something, when they get into a Model S and they go, I don't know if this is worth 6,000, 6 figures. Just because they're used to a luxury type of interior.
Right? It's value per or something like that.
It's a perception thing for sure. Yeah. So, and I think, and I don't have a problem. I'm sorry, I don't mean to hijack this, but I don't have a problem with the look and the design of the Model S's interior, but the materials, it could be better.
Exactly.
They could be better. Yeah. I just watched MKBHD's review. Are you going to say the same thing?
The Taycan?
Yeah. How do you pronounce it again?
Taycan.
Taycan?
Taycan.
The interior, the quality of that interior looked pretty good to me.
I had the privilege of driving one. It was a very nice car.
You drove it?
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say I saw the same video last night, and I didn't. I mean, I knew it's a Porsche, right? So it's gonna be luxurious, but I didn't know. Like Marquez went through it more than anyone else I've seen go through it in their reviews, especially and concentrated on the interior. And I didn't know it had all those little gadgets and all those little buttons and little but specified buttons, not just buttons for having buttons like a typical German car has, just a button to push another button.
Fake buttons. If you didn't get the option.
That's the Tesla mentality, right? We come from a minimalist aspect, and when you get used to that, you appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
You know, and of course the argument can be made for the other way. You know, you come from a car that's got a lot of doodads and get in a Tesla and you go, well, I don't like it. It's too simple. So, you know, there's got to be a happy medium for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I agree. I mean, the Taycan interior is very nice. I mean, it's a Porsche. It's a race car. Yeah. It's not a Model S family car. I'm sorry. As nice as it is, but it's not practical for families. It's an electric Porsche for Porsche enthusiasts. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
It does look nice, though.
It does.
It's a beautiful car.
Yeah.
So what was your biggest? I mean, we're sidetracking here, but I got to ask you because you're the only person I know that actually has been in one. Yeah. So what would you say if you're going to draw a parallel to the quality of the components in the dash, for example? Like how would you describe the difference? I
would say that's kind of a hard way to put it. I guess my first impression when you get in it, it just feels well put together. I mean, it's more busy, but if you set that aside and you just look at the way that things are put together and just the quality of the materials, you can just tell this is like, okay, they didn't really cut a lot of corners on this. Yeah. So, you know, if you're coming from that aspect, I don't have a problem with the Porsche. It's very well laid out. Yeah, it is different. It has 3 separate screens, and it's not intuitive to a Tesla person, but it's beautiful. It's well laid out. I mean, it's never going to have a nice entertainment system, as nice an entertainment system as Tesla, mainly because it just doesn't have software updates and it'll never change. So there's pros and cons to both. I mean, I like the car from the visual aspect. It's an absolutely beautiful car. It's drop dead gorgeous. It's got very good performance. If you're used to a Tesla, the 2-speed transmission is going to make you go, huh, what? But no, it's a great car. But like I said, if you put it beside a Model S, it's like, okay, you can definitely see. The Model S is a family car that can do sports-like car things, and the Taycan's a sports car that can do, well, not family things.
Okay, you know what? Let's just jump to the dessert right now. We'll get back to the battery.
okay.
And all that kind of stuff in a second. But let's just go right to the dessert. For anyone that didn't watch it and is listening to this, they talked about all the battery technology and the battery stuff, which we will get to. We're just doing this in reverse, just because this has come up so often in our discussion already. And at the end, and it wasn't really one of those one more things, because Elon is so uncomfortably awkward how he does these things. He says, "Oh yeah, let's just show what the S is," and like he doesn't build it up. He doesn't have any no theatrics.
Fly by the seat of his pants.
Yes, yes. And I'm wondering if they even make a script for him, or they just say screw it. Elon doesn't need a script. So anyways, he talked about the Model S Plaid, and then he showed a video, like a 20-second video. And just correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I tried to take quick notes. 0-60 under 2 seconds.
2.1.
2.1 in Canada.
According to the website. Well, that's that's 60, not 100.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ed. Continue.
It's a common mistake.
Okay, listen. I do all my numbers are all Canadian. That's how I see everything.
That's because we're right and they're wrong. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly, right, Trevor? You know.
Well, as I talk about it, I'll put up the U.S. specs.
Are they on the metric system or the non-scientific method system?
The non-scientific.
Quarter mile in under 9 seconds.
Here, it's behind me too. If you want the Canadian
200
one,
miles an hour top speed, and a range of 520 miles.
That's incredible.
Beat the Lucid Air by 3 miles.
And I was gonna say that was the last spec that they put on the screen, and then they ended the video. But I thought to myself right then and there, like all the rest were like, okay, yeah, that's coming in lower than anyone else, and then the range 520. Yeah, there was something to that. That wasn't accidental, or that wasn't not even accidental. That wasn't just like it just happened to be 520. That was definitely deliberate.
And don't forget, Tesla does sometimes sandbag these numbers.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
It says
that could
520
easily
plus.
be 600.
Yeah, it says 520 plus. I'm sure that number will be higher.
Everything that they announced that they haven't released yet, you notice, even with the Cybertruck and the Model Y, it's always a number plus, because they'll always, they'll over deliver, under promise and over deliver.
Fudge room there,
Which is the opposite of most companies. Most companies are over promise and under deliver, right?
But then again,
900-mile range.
Exactly. How many other companies are shorted as much as Tesla is, right? They sort of have to. They sort of have to, over deliver, because people would be all over them if they didn't. And what, like you said, what other car company would actually do that? Or who would go after other companies if they did? So, okay, so that was the Plaid Model S, and then they said they're taking deliveries now. I guess this is why it's up on the website.
Orders.
Deliveries would be cool, but orders.
Orders now for next year.
Late 2021, which is coinciding with the same availability of Cybertruck, which also ties into the availability of these new cells.
Semi.
If you compare these numbers to the Roadster, it's kind of like a stepping stone. It's like a good price point and good specs for what you get.
If you look at it from that aspect, yes. Keep in mind, a lot of the stuff that was developed from the Roadster are being pulled into the Model S tri-motor setup.
Yep.
New cells.
Oh, I didn't say the best part. Sorry, Trevor.
Go ahead.
135 US grand.
190,000 Canadians before options, before tax.
Yes, 100.
You're well over $200,000 for
easily. Yeah. So that's Taycan territory.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's a more practical car. Now, keep in mind, this is still a year away, so there's plenty of room for the rumored improvements to be made as far as the interior is concerned. I believe it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to ask you guys about that. You see on the website here, and they show you the Model S, and they show you the specs for the Plaid. Does anyone think that this is actually how the car is going to look next year, if and when they start delivering it?
Absolutely not. All you have to do is take a look at the car that's been driving around Nürburgring to see the changes they've been making.
Yeah. Was it just me, or did they just not show the front much? Or if at all, they showed the side and the back of that car.
Well, the Nürburgring car has bigger fender flares because they've been operating it with much wider tires. It has a much larger air scoop in the front for the cooling system. It has a wing on the back. I mean, they've been playing around with things.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's kind of slapdash just to accommodate the car. I have heard through the rumor mill that it's more of a test bed. Matter of fact, actually, if you think about it, if you listen to Ryan's podcast from, I think it was last year when he had Franz von Holthausen on his.
Ryan
McCaffrey.
I'm just kidding. We all know Ryan.
Okay. Well, so anyways, go back and you listen to his podcast where he had Franz on. Yep. And Franz basically said that we have to do things in a capital efficient manner. Because Ryan kind of asked him what the deal was with the Model S and the Plaid one. And he said, he didn't really answer in the sense, we're going to do a new body on it. But he said, we have to do things in a capital efficient manner. So the way I'm reading that is, it's just like, we're going to make some changes, but we're not telling you, and they're not going to be radical. I had heard through the grapevine that it was going to get updated taillights. Now, the way I read that is larger taillights accommodate a larger charge plug, much like Model 3 has in Europe. So that makes total sense. Adopt CCS, right?
Yes, I was going to say yes.
Better updated headlights. Model S needs better headlights. Interior comes, that's pretty obvious at this point. Probably a refreshed front end, something along, lose the mustache.
Wasn't there already a potentially leaked picture of maybe one by Kim last year on her channel?
No, Kim was the one that broke the story about the tri-motor setup on the Model 3.
Oh, I thought she had a picture of a design. I thought
she might have. I forgot, but I remember distinctly that she said that it was going to be a tri-motor setup.
Yeah.
Similar to the Roadster. So again, like I said, going back, it's a lot of the stuff is being pulled from Roadster. The bottom line is that if you look at the Roadster, that just gives them more time. Again, Franz had told Ryan that the Roadster needs more time, and it's going to be way better. So, all the numbers you see on the Roadster page, those are horribly sandbagged. It's going to be way faster.
Says Trevor waiting and wanting one badly.
I'll believe it when I see it in my drive.
Can you pull that order page back up for a moment? Like, I think that this is just probably a mess stock marketing image, right? Because if you look closely, you can see it still has the driver's.
They are not going to reveal the
display area.
They're not going to reveal that.
I know, but the first thing I did look for was to see if there was a center-mounted screen.
Yeah, Tesla's not going to be given that stuff.
Anyone watching at home live, if I click from the long range, the picture's the same. I go to performance, picture's the same. Yeah. So yeah, like Trevor said, and wouldn't it be like?
Remember, Elon's in the computer industry. He knows very well what the Osborne effect can do to your business.
Yes.
Yeah, it's okay. If you're announcing something a year in advance, okay, you can talk about specs. Just don't show them the final cookie.
Yeah. Oh, the Osborne effect was a big factor in today's announcement. I think maybe also why they delayed it as long as they did. Also COVID too. But it's funny, Trevor, you talk about Ryan, and we all know Ryan is.
Ryan's a very good friend of mine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We joke obviously about who he is, but he had an interesting question today. It was twofold, and the second part of it was about Texas. And I'm surprised. I thought maybe at one point did anyone else think that Elon wasn't even going to answer it? He sort of concentrated on the first question so much, and he answered it so much, and I thought he was just like, okay, is he going to answer Ryan's second part? Is he going to answer the part about Texas? And he did, very short. But I'm actually surprised, unless he just can't, announce something now.
The way he answered that question just said to me that he was trying to skirt around whatever contractual obligation he might be under to talk about it.
Okay.
Absolutely. That was my impression.
I'm hoping that's the way it is, because to think that they got that whole deal done and a giant factory and all this money and all this savings and potential jobs in the future, and that wasn't part of the negotiation or a talking point.
Now, the dealers associate going ape, you know what?
Yeah. For those of you who may be watching the show or not aware, Texas is not a state where Tesla can sell direct. If someone in Texas wants to buy, and Texas, by the way, is only second to California in terms of vehicle sales in the United States. It's huge.
Wow.
So when someone in Texas wants to buy a Tesla, they have to call corporate, place the order, they pay for it in all in advance, and then the car can be delivered to them. But they cannot go to a showroom. They're not allowed to talk about prices or anything like that. Anyways, there's a lot of dealer lobbies. Michigan's another state that has a lot of issues.
Yeah.
So it's been long rumored that, Tesla, Elon spends a lot of time in Texas because, the facility where they do the rocket testing, and of course now in Boca Chica where they're building the rocket. So his heart is in Texas in a lot of ways, right? He's been pretty vocal about the issues he's had in California. So, we've been watching this whole saga about where they're going to build the next gigafactory. And of course, my money has always been on Texas and Austin specifically. And of course, that's exactly what happened. But a lot of us have been following the whole saga and know exactly the situation that Tesla's in as far as selling in Texas. And it's like, okay, are they going to use this as a carrot? It's like, okay, change your legislatures. We can change, we can sell our cars directly, and then we'll bring our factory here. Obviously, that's probably something that's still going on, and it could be in the back rooms. And my understanding is that Texas legislature only gets together every 2 years. So Tesla only has a shot at changing or making their case every 2 years. So there's a delay process, and they've been at this for years now, so this is nothing new. So who knows? But right now, they have a way to get around it for the time being. It's not ideal, but I think, and we've talked about this on our show too. I think there could be a lot of pressure from the actual owners. Texas loves pick it up trucks. Okay, so when people want the Cybertruck in Texas, you can bet. What do you mean I can't buy this thing here? I mean, I got to call California. I don't want to deal with no California. I'm a Texan.
I bet you didn't even know.
So it could be a lot of peer pressure from the actual, buyers that could potentially push the issue. But
Elon's a pretty smart guy, and I'm pretty sure it's probably what Paul said. It's like some contractual agreement he can't discuss, and
makes perfect sense.
That guy, he's always playing like 4D chess. He's always like 2 steps ahead of what everyone else is doing, and I'm sure that was in his plan somewhere along the lines. Like, even before
solved
Austin
the problem already.
Yeah, even before Austin came up to him and said, "Hey, let's do it," he already knew, like, "Hey, they're going to work with me." That's he's a smart guy.
I'm not sure if it was the same Q&A or if it came up somewhere else, but there was mention of Giga 2 in Buffalo, right?
Yeah.
And I had always thought that the Buffalo was Solar City. So what do we know about what's going on in Buffalo?
So Buffalo Gigafactory 2 was originally built by Solar City.
Yeah.
When Tesla merged, bought them out, whatever word you want to use, they inherited that factory. But this was right in the midst of them ramping Model 3, so it didn't get any love at all. I mean, the whole solar panel thing was announced in 2017, or was it 2016? I forget now, it's been so long. Solar roofs, all that stuff went to the back burner so it could focus. I mean, it was live or die getting Model 3 going, otherwise the company would have went under. So everything got pushed off to the side. So in that factory, they build the solar panels. The solar panels were originally built by Panasonic because they had to deal with Panasonic in there. I think largely Tesla's taken that over now. And of course, they build the solar shingles. Oh, by the way, they also make the supercharger cabinets and all those electronics. They're all made there.
Oh, okay.
It is, my understanding, it's in full swing now. So it's getting some love. I was there back in February, drove past the factory, parking lot's full.
Oh, very cool.
So, yeah, it's
They're
happening,
not
but it
producing
doesn't
any
get
cars though.
No, they don't make cars there. No.
Yeah. Or batteries or
No, it's just ancillary stuff.
I heard they're supposed to open up, well, obviously not now because of things that happened, but I heard that they were talking about opening up tours there at some point. So that'd be kind of cool, at least for us who are close.
Yeah, well, then COVID hit.
Yeah, but even with COVID, don't be surprised they still may do it.
I'll go.
But was it always referred to as Giga 2 though? Like,
yes,
he's referred it as Giga 2 a few times, but more than not, whenever I've heard Elon talk about Buffalo, he actually says Buffalo. There's sometimes
they've been changing the nomenclature now. It used to be Giga 1, 2, 3. They're not doing that anymore. They're calling it Giga Reno and Giga this and Giga that.
Oh, okay.
Right, the Giga Shanghai. That's what they're calling it now.
Yeah.
Or it might be Terra Texas.
Berlin.
Yeah. So they're not really referring to them as 1, 2, 3 anymore. If they do that, it's more of a slip of the tongue just because of old history. But they're actually calling them by location now. Giga Berlin.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the Plaid, and that was the last thing before they went to the Q&A. But let's rewind, do the sound effect of rewinding, and then we'll go right back to at the beginning where they talked about it being 56% cheaper, and I showed you those graphs and stuff and this is where I'm going to use the expertise of Mr. Trevor Page, for his geekiness about batteries, and that's his words, not mine. Before we went live,
listen, I am not a battery expert. I just stayed at Holiday Inn Express last night.
Okay, so they talked about tabless cell, and you touched on it a little bit. And this new cell is going to be known as the 4680 cell.
Correct.
The
So
ones we have now are 2170s.
Yeah. Well, Tesla's gone through 3 different sizes of cells. 18650, or what they call an 1865 now, because the 0 literally means nothing.
Yeah,
anyways,
you brought that up, eh?
Yeah. That cell is a commodity cell that was popular in the early 2000s in general laptops. That's when Tesla started building their Roadsters. They were just using commodity battery cells that are available on the market. When they designed the Model 3, they did a whole stack revision and said what makes more optimum sense. And that was to increase the form factor of the cell to 2170, which refers to the physical size of the cell. So 21 millimeters, 70 millimeters tall. The other one was an 18 by 65. By increasing those dimensions, just 10% in both directions yields a 50% increase in energy volume that you can put in there. Now, the new cell that they developed is it's about the same size as a little mini Coke can. It's 46 millimeters by 80. So again, not that much bigger. It's 50% bigger in one direction and only 10% in the other. But now you're yielding a 5 times volume over a 2170 cell. So coupled with that is...
Off there. You know where I learned that from? Mark Rober's video last night about
Oh, I have to watch him. Mark Rober's awesome. I love
him. Oh, that's on my to-watch list, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you have to watch his latest one from the weekend.
If you guys don't watch him, one video a month. Yeah. Excellent. Great.
So all right, so getting back to the batteries, the way the batteries are built, the way Tesla's batteries are built, is that they lay the lithium carbonate, which is a liquid slurry. Now it's going to be a dry slurry. We'll talk about that in a second here. And it's actually literally printed, very much like a printing press. Right? You got paper that rolls through and you got ink. It's pretty much the same process. So they print it on these very thin sheets that are sliced, and then they're put on a mandrel and spun. We call it a jelly roll, right? It's kind of like a Swiss roll. And then it's put inside the can, and then they put in a liquid electrolyte. Those jelly rolls typically, up until now, only have one little tab. So you have an anode and a cathode, right? Because the electrons move from one to the other. So if you're charging, they go in one direction. If you discharge, they go in the other direction. In order to get those electrons up to the top of the battery, where the positive terminal is, they have a single little tab at the top. And it's usually typically kind of right in the middle of the jelly roll. So if you can imagine, the jelly roll is maybe 2 meters long, 1.5 meters long. It's rolled up. But there's only this one little tab, and that's where all the electrons have to pass. And because the jelly roll is long, the electrons from the ends have to travel a longer distance. Anytime you have electrons running through anything, generates heat, right? Hold on to a nice big fat electrical cable or a supercharger cable and you hold in what's charging, that thing gets really hot, right? So the cell is exactly the same way. And all those electrons have to pass through that little tab, which means that you can't just make the cell bigger because now the electrons have to travel faster. It gets hotter. So what Tesla did is that they invented this tabless system where essentially the whole edge of the jelly roll is actually the tab. So the electrons basically move in this direction rather than all sides coming into this one spot. The complexity or the difficulty in order to do one tab system, though, is that when you spin it, now how do you get all those tabs to connect to the tap cap? So it looks like from the image, unfortunately we don't have an image here, they had to develop a way to slice it in such a way and fold it in so that they could all make contact with the top cap.
Yeah, I saw that.
You saw that picture?
Yeah, I saw that picture.
Yeah, where it's kind of spun. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Dax. Exactly. So what you're seeing there is all the tabs that have been sliced in such a way and folded in origami-like so that when they put the top cap on, that is your positive terminal.
And if you count the rings, you can tell how old the battery is, too.
Exactly. Exactly.
Good one, Dak.
The one thing, there's several aspects to this because they also talk about the silicon content. Now, lithium cells, they're called lithium because it's a chemical process. It's not the main constituent of the battery. A lot of people think, it's 100% lithium. We're going to run out of lithium. It's not the way it is. It's only about 2%. It actually should be called a nickel battery because it's mostly nickel in there. Anyways, one of the things that I remember, I went to a electromobility conference about, 3 years ago. And I sat into, there were several different sessions. Anyways, there were some battery experts from one of the universities. And they were talking about the problem that they have with silicon. Now, silicon can hold almost 9 times more energy than carbon does. But the problem is that silicon, when you charge it, it swells 3 to 4 times its size. And it won't contract. It won't come back. It actually splinters. So it's a great way to store energy, but it's crap because you can only charge it a few times, then it's worthless. What really caught my attention in this presentation, though, is what Tesla has developed using the silicon matter, and they've actually got some kind of special coating that they've developed where it almost mitigates this problem. That's a huge development on their part.
Yeah, that's where you said they're close, right?
Yeah, they're very close. I mean, again, this stuff takes a lot of work. There's also something else that I thought was interesting that they never talked about, and I was really hoping to see something, was Professor Jeff Dahn, who's been under contract with Tesla since 2016. Now, he's a university professor in Dalhousie in Nova Scotia, and his team has done 2 things.
He did a better job of pronouncing that than Ryan did. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. He's not Canadian, so I forgive him. So Jeff Dahn's team has done 2 things under contract for Tesla. One of them is developing what I call the holy grail of electrolytes. They actually published a white paper on this. Maybe we can put the show link and people can read it. It's really technical. There's some great videos. He's done some lectures on YouTube you can watch if you really want to get into this stuff. But the bottom line is that battery degradation in a lithium cell is actually a physical phenomenon where there's basically a plaque buildup. They call it the silicon electrolyte interface, or the SEI layer. I think I got that right.
So can you clean your plaque and get back your battery?
No, unfortunately not. And so anyways, the efforts over the last few years have been trying to find additives that they can put into the electrolyte, that is the medium to which the electrons pass from the anode to the cathode, in such a way that it prevents this layer from building up. Because once the layer gets built up, the electrons can't pass through freely anymore, and that leads to degradation. So they've been working on an electrolyte additive, or additives, chemicals that almost virtually eliminate. And in this white paper, they basically said, I think we found it. So Tesla didn't mention anything about that. The other part of the that Jeff Dahn's team has developed is incredibly sensitive instrumentation and machinery that can measure what's called the Coulombic efficiency of the cell. That is, in a very short time span, they can actually measure how well these cells are behaving to all the changes that they're trying to make to the electrolytes and all the improvements they're trying to make, rather than doing testing for 10 years. Oh, that didn't work, start over again. Those two elements are something that Tesla was very interested in, so I think that's why they put them under contract. So that's why I think in a lot of ways Tesla has been able to very quickly ramp up all of these changes, because they not only have the smarts behind the whole thing, but they actually have very sensitive instrumentation and machinery that can measure the efficiency of these cells and see what works and what doesn't work, and they can iterate very, very quickly. So that's my understanding. But I'm surprised that they didn't make any mention of that. But that's maybe as part of their secret sauce, and they're not willing to talk about that. But there is a white paper, and you can read it. Yeah.
Well, thanks for that, Trev. That breaks it down in plain English for a lot of people, including myself.
No, it doesn't.
Well, no,
I mean, I understand batteries now.
Yeah, I honestly do. And I actually think I know what I'm going to name my next two cars, but that's a separate thing. But no, like there was one thing you talked about, Jeff Dahn, and the Coulombic
efficiency.
You lost me there, buddy. You lost me there. But other than that, everything else, plain as English, plain as mud, clear.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So that's good. No, okay. And then what I took from everything that Trevor said and from the Battery Day event is they put up a couple slides and they talked about 5 times the energy, 6 times the power, and 16% range increase. And of course, the big number, it's not a big number, but it is a big number at the bigger scale, is 14% cost savings. So all in these new batteries, these tabless 4680 cells, that's the numbers. And they put out a lot of percentages, numbers and stuff like that.
Remember, those numbers are just at the cell level.
Yeah.
Right. There are, I mean, when we talked a little earlier, it's 50% or 56% savings. That's all the other efficiencies that come in. This is just at the cell level.
14 is just for the cell level. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I had one guy on Twitter, because I actually tweeted out these numbers, is that one guy said, only a 14% increase in range? I said, you're focusing on the wrong thing here. This is all about cost reduction. Range, we're good. By and large here. But this is about cost reduction.
Well, some people thought this Battery Day would be like some big, huge, thing that would have doubled the battery.
Solid state batteries or something.
Well, Martin, in our comments, he said if they manage to achieve a 56% price reduction, the Model 3 is going to be a sub 40K car, which I don't think is going to happen. I think they're going to increase their profit, and we'll see a cheaper new car.
Model 2.
Yeah, I have to give a shout out there. Kyle from Outer Spec Motorings in the chat room. He's watching. Hi,
Kyle. So here's my question though. After taking in.
Sorry, I was going to say, it's funny. I was actually going to reach out to Kyle, see if he wanted to be on the show with us. I just assumed he'd be busy with.
He's a great guest. Please have him on. He's wonderful. Yeah, he's awesome.
So with everything that we saw, so my question is, right, because Elon did mention, a couple of times we're very close to this. This is, a journey till 2030 type of thing. So what do you guys feel about in terms of Tesla's ability to actually execute on everything we saw today?
Oh, I think they'll execute. My personal opinion, I'll ask all you guys separately, but to answer your question quickly, I think they'll execute. Whether it'll be on the same timeline?
That's always the question.
Yeah, that's one thing with Tesla. What do you think, Franklin? You think they'll execute?
I think they'll execute. Here's the thing, and Paul was talking about it while the event was going on. You can see that the people were reacting to the news as it's not a now news. It's like in the next 10 years news, and the stocks obviously after hours was taking a hit. But I think they're gonna, to answer your question more in depth, I think they're gonna execute. It's just a matter of when. And Elon's time frame over like a 6-month period of time is usually off. If he says something's coming in 6 months or something's coming in 1 month, let alone let alone 10 years, right? So I'm not saying he's not going to pull it off. That's not what I'm saying at all. Like, Elon's one of those people where when you go up to him, like when he tells you something, you know he's going to do it. It's just a matter of when, right? So I don't know if it's going to be 10 years. It might be 15, but it's going to happen, right? So,
yeah, I agree. Trev, what's your take on?
They have to execute on this because there's no Cybertruck Roadster or Semi without this.
It's true. It's their future. It's their own.
Right? Yeah, and the $25,000 car. I mean, it's all hinges on this. So they have to execute. They don't have a choice. Now, of course, there's such a thing as Elon time that exists for real, right?
Yeah.
So whether they can pull it off in the time, I don't know. In my opinion, the first cars that are really going to benefit from this, based on the timeline that they've put forward, is Cybertruck and Semi. Roadster is like this other ethereal thing, and I'm not too worried about that at this point. But the two cars that really need to benefit from this right away are those two vehicles.
Yeah.
Their stated timeline, I mean, they're building a factory that's going to build these cells and the trucks in it, so... obviously, they're working out the kinks as fast as they can. The fact that from what they've shown in the videos, that's working at the Cato Road facility. And if you look at the Cato Road facility, it looks like they haven't converted this thing very long ago. They've been working on it for maybe the last 6 months. Now, how much work was actually done inside the facility or not, I don't know. The Maxwell technology thing is a fairly recent acquisition. So Tesla works very quickly. How fast they can ramp that up? I would like to believe that they've learned a lot from their mistakes in the Model 3 ramp. We've seen that they've ramped Model Y up fairly quickly, quality aside. So I have high hopes. I mean, the thing is with Tesla is that you don't learn from successes; you learn from mistakes.
Well, that's life,
and you have to make mistakes in order to learn. So
you brought up something good there, Trevor. Well, a lot of things, but the fact that they're making the plant to build the Cybertrucks, so they have to have this tech ready to go for when that's released. I find Tesla does a really good job at putting like self-inflicted wounds on themselves for timelines. Like, I'll give you an example, FSD, and I've been a huge supporter of FSD. If you think about all the leases out there that they don't want people to buy because they want to buy them back for FSD, they put like a time limit saying, hey, we want to let's push ourselves. So if you notice, like, Tesla actually does a good job. We joke around about Elon time all the time, right? But they're doing a good job at like putting self timelines on things. If you think about it, like, hey, they're building the plant to build Cybertrucks, so the battery tech has to be ready by a certain time for them to continue. Their FSD software has to be ready the time the releases are done. So they put their own time restraints on things, so to speak, right? And you can kind of see them.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways the least thing as far as FSD is concerned is really lighting a fire underneath them, because they have been talking about FSD for quite some time, even when they had the switch over from the Mobileye technology over to NVIDIA, and of course now they're Gen 3, which is all done in-house. They've gone through several different rewrites, and of course now he's talking about yet another rewrite of the software. So, some of us have been in the software business to know that, oh my God, a rewrite, lots of fun. Yeah. But the least thing, I mean, if you look at it from that aspect, if they don't have the robotaxi fleet software ready and FSD ready, what are they going to do with all these cars they got to buy back?
Yeah. I think there'll be a lot of lease extensions, if you ask me.
That could happen too, of course.
Yeah, but
I mean, I'm not ruling it out. It's just interesting, right? Because their timelines are getting better. Like, his timelines have improved drastically.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, Dax, can you put that photo of the cell back up just quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Because like my concern, just to kind of conclude my question around ability to execute, what worries me, right? And I do think it's going to happen. I know it's a matter of time, but if you look at this, right? And Trevor, correct me if I'm wrong, but if even one of these folds is misaligned, that could affect yields, right? So they might have a poor yield in production. So that kind of worries me a little bit when I see something like this.
Well, that's why they're piloting it now, I guess, right?
Well, yeah, they did mention that it took them a long time to figure out how to do this tablets system. There were like 4 different revisions of the cell. They're still working out the kinks, so it's not finished. But the fact that they've built, well, they said tens of thousands of these cells, they're onto something. But this is just, scaling manufacturing. It's just like anybody else. I saw some kind of tweet or something today where, we have better cells than Tesla, and I'm like, you know what? I have a great cell lab in my basement because I'm under contract and I have a patent pending. I can't talk about it. So, chalk is cheap. Anybody can make any kind of claim, if you don't have anything to back it up.
Yeah.
But Tesla's the real deal in this case. And, I mean, they're pushing really hard to get the prices down. And you can't do that if you rely on third-party manufacturers because they don't want to make investments largely. And all they want to do is ramp up production rather than look at what's the best way to approach this. And in a lot of ways, Elon's the only guy that can do this kind of thing because, as a physics guy, this is the way he thinks. It's literally the way that they do everything down there.
And you're saying how you're answering Paul's question about how they're on revision 4. They even fully admitted that they're going to have to probably, at the end of this, they'll probably be on revision 7 or 8.
And they will.
Yeah, they will. They'll make changes, and they actually, as I found it very interesting at the end when they went through all the managers or engineers there, and they all introduced themselves, those guys, and they were so happy, and it sounds like a very cohesive team. And obviously, they could have been just making it sound like that, but I truly believe that they're excited that they're onto something, and they're actually at one point, one guy was pleading with industry or the rest of the public or competitors to come on board with us. And then another guy to answer the question was saying, we make mistakes. If you think that we're doing it wrong, we probably are doing it wrong. Let us know. They're very, I think they've learned a lot since Model 3. I think it maybe humbled them, and they've realized that, they aren't always doing things right as much as they may think they are or planning to do things right. They're not always going to do things right, and they're gonna mess up, and they seem to be a lot more open.
The one who really got me was the one who was playing Dex, and he's like, it's not just us to save the planet. Everyone should pitch in, right? He said something along those lines.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like you can tell all the guys up there were like, I don't know if they're faking it, and if they were, they did an excellent job, but they're like super happy you can tell they're super happy to work for Tesla. And
I think the Tesla engineers are happiest when they're challenged.
Yeah.
And they're, by and large, pretty young guys and very highly motivated. And Tesla really attracts the best talent in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they're pumped for the future.
I think it's too, you can tell that they truly believe Tesla's mission. And that's why they're saying, like, hey, it's not just Tesla that should be doing this. Everyone should be jumping in. And
they're absolutely right, though. They're absolutely right.
No, 100% they are. And you can tell it was genuine, right?
Yeah.
At least it looked like it was. Plus, they hired the best flyers in the world, right? So
no, they're absolutely right. They need to have everyone jump on board for the sustainability of the planet and all that kind of stuff. The one guy said it's all our planet and stuff like that. But I think they're also saying it in a sense that, like, you know what? If any other car company doesn't follow us or get on board doing something of their own to catch up with us or come on board with us, like even if it's not on board but alongside, and just in another word, just progress. If they don't do that, they're going to go out of business. Like I think Tesla drew the line in the sand today and said, "Listen, guys," to everyone else in the industry, like, this is where we need to go. Maybe you may have a better idea. That's fine, but we need to do some kind of progression. We can't just, and they didn't talk about how they flatlined, and in terms of a few things for the past couple of years, and they knew that they couldn't get to cell production the way if they kept going the way they were going. So they knew they had to do something else, and I think they're just pushing everyone to do it better.
Well, that was quite a moment of honesty too, I found, right? It's like, hey, this is what's been happening. It's flatlining, and we had to kind of think out of the box to now achieve our goals, right, that we set for ourselves. So I thought that was very well done.
Yeah, it's the way they presented that too. They're like showing it, and they're like, look how good we're going, and then it's like, but now look over the last couple of years, like we can't do any better than what we're doing. And it's like, wow, okay, this is, they were very honest with what's going on, right? Just a quick question from the Moo. Why did Tesla delay the battery day? Could they have told us the same thing a month ago, unless they were going to introduce something and it didn't pan out? What's your thoughts on?
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
Well, I think it kind of goes back to the pilot not being 100% ready yet. I mean, I've been watching, there have been people who have been flying drones over that facility now for the last few months, and construction's still going on.
Yeah.
So
I'm laughing because the drone flyovers is...
Franklin and I talked about it last week, the drone flyovers. Yeah. How it's a whole realm in itself. Yeah. No, but I think you're right.
How many cars have they sold? Get a drone. Let's count them.
Oh, that's the old Tesla key thing. Yeah.
Or you know what, Trev, too, it could be that, like, Elon, it seemed like he was pushing to have this as a in-person event, and using the Ys there in the parking lot was their best attempt with what's going on down there, and it's going on all over the world, but down there especially. So that was their next best thing. If they could have done it in person in an actual gathering, they would have. Yeah,
the way they did it was, I don't think, ideal. They did what they could. I mean, had they had not been a pandemic, there certainly would have been tours of the facility under very heavy give me your phone type of situation. But I kind of wanted to go back and just for a second just talk about the car industry as a whole, because I mean, I've not been involved with the car industry, but I've been following it for a long time. And the car industry, if you look at it from a lot of different aspects, has very much, not invented here syndrome, where, we don't like to partner with other people. Okay, yeah, we might buy an engine from this guy, but that's about all. And plus, there's this really big behemoth. I mean, you look at GM or Ford, these are huge companies. They can't just turn around on a dime and start making electric vehicles overnight. They got to keep the lights on.
That's why they partner with Nikola.
Well,
sorry. I thought we were going to get an episode without saying that name.
Please,
this is going to go for another hour.
By the way,
now.
It's Trevor Page, not Trevor Milton. There's two different Trevors. There's a good one and there's a bad one. I'm the good one.
Sorry, that was a joke. Okay.
Just saying. Anyways, but as I was saying, these companies can't turn around on a dime. I mean, Tesla's very fortunate in the sense that they're a startup. They operate very much like a startup, even though they're not a startup anymore. But they don't have any baggage. So starting from scratch and just doing EVs from scratch is I mean, it's better for them. Same thing with Lucid Motors. Take your pick. They don't have any baggage. So for them to move forward and push and push the boundaries is easy for them to do. But the other companies, they've been reticent. They don't want to partner with Tesla. I mean, yeah, okay, you had a little bit of Toyota and Mercedes, but that was, short-term contracts and stuff. And a lot of people would say, well, Tesla's going to make all these batteries, and now they can sell them to everybody else. I don't think that's going to happen. They have so much production that they have to do on their own vehicles that unless they have an excess, which is going to take years, I don't think they're going to partner with anybody at this point. Even though Elon says, we don't want this to be a walled garden, we'd like for people to use our stuff, but they got their hands full building stuff just for themselves. So I don't see any partnerships happening anytime soon with Tesla, let alone from the fact a lot of these companies to use supercharger network or any Tesla's technology is tacit to realizing that they failed, and they hate to admit that.
I mean,
the only and I'm sorry here, but the only companies that out of necessity have had to do this is largely Volkswagen because of the Dieselgate thing. That fact alone, the cheating scandal that had been going on for years and years and years, was a seminal moment in that company to get switched over. They're going to announce the ID4 tomorrow. So there's a lot of... yeah. So companies have to watch what these guys are doing, but a lot of them, it's like they don't have a Dieselgate thing to worry about. They have nothing existential that's going to crush or change their business model to get them to switch. Look at Ford. Ford is suffering like crazy because they've decided, you know what? We're only going to do pickups and SUVs from now on. Oh, and we're going to keep the
Mustang.
The Mustang. Oh, by the way, we're going to make an electric Mustang, but we're still going to call it a Mustang and piss off all the owners.
So, that made so many people angry.
And they're on the verge of, I mean, the last number I heard is I think by the third quarter they're going to post a $7 or $8 billion loss. So a company like that is hurting. So, and I've said this many times before, and I know it sounds a little kooky, but there is a definite potential here that if the other companies don't really pick up and put on their big boy pants and switch over and start making compelling electric vehicles, that the younger crowd that's coming of age now that want to buy these cars, because ask any kid on the street, what car do you want to own? It's a Tesla, okay?
Yep.
They're going to come into the market, and maybe they don't want to buy a Tesla. Maybe they don't have the money for Tesla, okay?
They will soon.
Right?
25.
I'm just saying that let's just say they go in and they go talk to Mazda. I want an electric car. Well, we don't have any. Market buying decisions change for a lot of people, right? So when they come into the market and they want this electric vehicle and they go to their favorite manufacturer and they don't have what they want, what choice are they going to go? They're going to go buy a Tesla. So I'm saying that there is a huge potential here for Tesla to actually get even more market share than they even anticipate, because they will have the compelling products at the price points and the availability that nobody else can match. And they could swallow up a whole big market from there. So, Tesla's less than 1%. They could swallow up 20% of the market pretty easily if the other guys don't do their part. I don't know. Maybe I'm blowing smoke.
I mean,
I totally agree.
There's totally precedent for everything you just said, Trevor. I mean, if you look at Kodak or Encyclopedia Britannica, or the list goes.
What are all these things you're talking about,
on and on. Yeah. Well, young people might not know this, but so here's the question, right? Is that inevitable for Ford or GM? They got to start doing something soon, right? Like, I'm surprised that other than compliance cars, we really don't see anything.
Who was it? One of their two GMs, or one of the top GMs, one of the top CEOs said they don't need to invest in batteries. They'll just buy it when the need happens.
Well, listen,
so narrow-minded.
Well, Kodak. When you're first starting out, you got to do something. But the problem is when you only got LG and Samsung SDI to buy from, and they have a shortage, what happens to the prices?
Yeah, because they got contracts already.
They jacked them up, right? Yeah. So the car manufacturers need to treat batteries and electric drivetrains just like their ICE drivetrains. They own that technology. If you look at those companies,
proprietary,
right? It's all proprietary. They build their own engines, they build the bodies, they do final assembly. That's all they do.
Yeah.
So they need to treat the batteries and the drivetrains for those cars exactly like they do with their ICE drivetrains, and really invest in that and build it themselves. Otherwise, they're going to pay through their nose. They're not going to get the car cost down, or they're not going to be compelling, and they're not going to have the range.
Yeah,
and
I agree with
Kyle. And to Kyle's point, because Kyle pointed just popped up here in the chat again, because he was saying that he was just talking to the engineering people. They have 38 different software providers. And that's one thing that Tesla really excels at, is because they're vertically integrated with the software. They know their cars inside out. They can make the changes. It's all over the air. This is one of Tesla's biggest strengths. And more cars are going towards software type systems now. But the thing is, if you look at entertainment systems alone in any car, they're garbage, because they're all made by a third-party company and they're not integrated with the cars. So they lack a lot of integration. That's just to Kyle's point.
But aren't these
very well integrated that way.
But Trev, aren't these manufacturers like seeing these errors in their ways and learning from it? Like,
no, because they're all bean counters and it's all decisions by committee. They don't have an Elon Musk saying this is the way it's going to be. This is like, well,
really great point.
Right?
It's the hierarchy of how their company is. It has to go through like 50 layers of management to make a decision. Yeah, where Elon's very like, hey, we're doing this. And I mean, in some ways it's bad, but in some ways it's very good. In a lot of ways it's very good. And you can have someone at the bottom of the company and say, hey, I have this brilliant idea. And he'll listen and say, okay, we're implementing this now. And there's no 50 levels of management that have to get something approved.
The electric vehicle market, the way I look at it right now, is that this is where the cool cats are at. This is where all the innovation's happening in the automotive space now. It's all in the EV market, and it's all the upstarts that are going to outmaneuver all of the old manufacturers. You got the Rivians, you got the Teslas, you've got Lucid Air. I mean, they're all in different markets, but these guys are all taking plays out of Tesla's / Apple's playbook, and really pushing the software game and doing things a lot vertically integrated and really rethinking the automotive industry. The other guys, it's just not happening because they
suppliers and contracts.
The culture is they don't have that kind of culture.
It's a culture. Nailed it. Culture.
To Trevor's point before, Angelo in the chat said he bought a Y because he was waiting for a Mercedes and they have no batteries.
That's a big problem. Yeah.
He can't buy something if it doesn't
buying
exist.
that Y and taking great pictures.
EQC has been a dismal failure for Mercedes.
Like, has anyone ever seen any?
No.
Did they ever come to Canada or the US?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, I've seen a few I-Paces, but that's about it.
What about the e-tron? Is that still around?
Yeah, sorry.
It's still around. Kyle drove one. He likes it. I mean, it's a very nice interior. I sat in one. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It actually is, yeah.
James Cook liked one too.
Yeah, I have to give him this. As much as Volkswagen gets crapped on a lot for Dieselgate, and I get that. Very good engineers. They build really nice interiors in the car. Fit and finish is good. My wife has an $18,000 Volkswagen Golf, and man, the car has 2 sets of door seals. Not even a Tesla has that, and the car costs 3 times the cost, right? So, that's always been a beef of mine with Teslas and their stupid door seals. I mean, if they were to fix that, I'd be a happy camper. And it doesn't take much. I mean, I'll go work for them. You know what? Buy one of these cars, look at the door seals, copy it, problem fixed.
Trevor's going to be at the end of the assembly line, like putting on door seals. What are you doing, sir?
And using adhesion promoter to keep the damn thing stuck on.
I work here now. I'm putting these on for you.
My work is done.
Trevor, you said it before though. Tesla's got so much on their plate and bigger fish to fry. No, but I know you're joking, half joking, anyways. But no, like that's the industry, and like you said, vertical integration. But these companies, they're just accustomed to, like you said, just outsourcing things and not doing it on their own. They thought for all this time, and they're maybe now realizing it now, maybe now that it's too late and they're scrambling, but they thought, we could just, partner with this battery company or that battery company, Panasonic and CATL and stuff like that. But they're realizing, just like you said, Trev, that these people have contracts and supply issues and even Tesla mentioned it today about the supply issues, right? Like, did they say something like when they're talking about the terawatts by 2022 and then 2030 or something like that? They talked about that's just us. We're gonna continue to get battery supplies from our other partners and stuff like that. So that's going to be the biggest thing. That's going to be the hardest thing to do.
They're reaching out directly to the mines. I know that there was some news in Canada recently about Tesla approaching nickel mines, for example. I guess the folks in Sudbury will probably fare pretty well.
Yeah.
That's big nickel, right?
Well, Tesla's very vertically integrated, basically out of necessity. Because, if you look back at the Roadster program, when they first, did their business plan, they looked at the automotive industry and they said, nobody's making anything anymore. They're just buying parts off the shelf. We can do the same thing. Turns out it was a big mistake on their part. Yeah. So when they developed the Model S, they couldn't get tier 1 suppliers. So they decided, you know what? I guess we're going to have to make it. 80% of the plastics in the Teslas are made in-house. Yeah. So they do a lot of vertical integration because in a lot of ways it's the only way to out of survival. Now Tesla's in a different game now. They can probably get better parts, but largely all of their circuit boards are all designed in-house. That's not farmed out. The other car manufacturers, they're still using a lot of parts.
And I feel like that
they take the same
advantage.
ABS system, they put it in every car.
Mm-hmm.
That gives them a huge advantage.
Well, it does, and if you look at the progression of Tesla's car, a lot of us said, the Model Y is going to share 75% of the parts in Model 3. No, it doesn't.
I was going to say that number.
Only 40, maybe even less.
Where did that number, I know where it came from, but yeah, every day I hear that number, someone keeps referring to that number, and I'm thinking, no, it doesn't.
No.
But you're the first person, Trevor, that I've heard agree with what I was thinking internally, that no, I don't see that anymore.
No, it's not. It's almost like every Tesla car that they make is almost bespoke unto itself.
Or maybe what they mean is after the Model 3 gets all the things that the Model Y has had that are rumored for the 3 to get, then maybe he'll be 75%.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's, that's just a matter of time because we've seen the progression. So for those of you who don't know, a lot of evidence showing the Model 3 is going to get the heat pump. They're going to get, the chrome trim is a given thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm going to get all that stuff.
Yeah.
Chrome trim? Black trim. Sorry. Black trim.
I know what you meant. Okay.
Chrome,
the last thing we can touch on, unless you guys have something else to touch on, and I'll get your final closing thoughts in a second. Let's talk about the one thing that I thought maybe they were going to talk about a little bit more, but they just nilly-willy just talked about it, just like how they did about the Plaid, was the $25,000 EV in 3 years. Now, $25,000 because we have a Canadian panel here and some Canadian listeners, that's 33,000 Canadian right now. I don't know, in 3 years. Who knows? Maybe it's going to be back to par like it was in 08. I doubt
We
it.
can dream. We can dream.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So what's your take? What's your thoughts on that, guys? The 25,000. They don't have a name for it yet, but some people are calling it Model 2.
I think it's a really nice. I think it's a really nice starter home, so to speak, right? And I use that analogy on purpose, right? Because you get young people in early who can afford something now from a Tesla, and then throughout their lifetime, you're going to move them up the value chain, right? In terms of the different, higher priced vehicles. So I think it's a great strategy. And the strategy is actually predicated on sustainability, but I think it's actually a great business strategy.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. How it's like a starter home, and that lends to what Trevor was saying too. How the young generation, like we all drive Teslas here. You guys know, to Trevor's point, what he was saying earlier, when you guys see when you're driving by and you see a young kid on the street, like a teenager or just a little tween or something, their heads turn. The adult they're with 9 times out of 10, they don't care, but the
kids
little
get
kid,
it.
the kids, as you said, the kids get it.
Yeah.
Trust me, like kids go ballistic.
Well, you are a kid, so tell me how you feel about it.
Right. I'm excited
You were
every
a
time I
kid
see a
like
Tesla.
6 months.
Did you see what I wrote in your
started
in your lower third there? By the way, when
Yes.
you weren't looking.
Man, you're lucky I can't edit yours. It's. I think Tesla takes the stance as a like a tech company, and if you look at what tech companies are doing today, they're trying to fight for the younger market. Like Apple wants the younger market, Google wants the younger market, Microsoft wants the younger market, and the reason for that is they buy into
there.
they buy into their ecosystem, and they're a customer for life.
Yep.
So if someone just coming out of school, getting their first car is not going to be able to go out and afford a Model 3 currently. It's just not happening. But if you have like a secondhand, whatever we're going to call it, we'll call it the Model 2. I don't think it's going to be that, but just for the sake of our discussion, they buy a secondhand Model 2, they might be able to afford that eventually. And to my point before, if you get them in early, like what Paul was saying, and once you have a Tesla, it's hard to go back outside of a Tesla because all the feature set it offers. And
I know what slogan you were thinking in your head there. We can't say it here.
I didn't say nothing. I'm just saying, and it's like once you own a Tesla, it's hard to go out of it. So you basically got a customer for life, and it's just a smart business move.
The nature of the car, the way that it's designed and built, appeals to the younger crowd. The kids are growing up with iPads and iPhones in their hands, right? Yeah. So obviously, for vehicles like that, it certainly appeals to them. But the smaller Model 3, smaller model, just the compact car, whatever that they're going to call this thing. Not the first time they hinted at that. Actually, they mentioned that last year when they opened up the Gigafactory in Shanghai. Yeah. They said they were going to open a design studio in China where they were going to design a smaller car for the worldwide market. It would be designed in China. So this is the first time they've actually kind of confirmed that was kind of the plan as far as the price is concerned. And it doesn't surprise me. And at $25,000 US, when you calculate total cost of ownership, it's game over. You would never buy a gasoline car.
No, exactly, yeah. No, I think, they are definitely, and you know what? What other industry? I can't think of it. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, or add to it if you can think of any. What other industry do you know that is so? Once you get that brand, you stick with that brand, and you get devoted to that brand. Like, look at the Ford owners out there, or the Cadillac owners, or VW, or any kind of German. Like, you know what I mean? They stick to their brand. They're loyal. They're brand
There's
loyal.
a lot of brand loyalty. Apple has a lot of brand loyalty.
Oh, true. Yeah.
You know, Porsche has huge brand loyalty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of car manufacturers have that.
That's what I'm saying. Car manufacturers, and other than the car industry, and I wasn't thinking of Apple, but you're right. Apple and Android, that whole thing. But like if you buy a fridge or a stove, are you sworn to buying that manufactured fridge and stove? Yeah, there's no loyalty in that anymore, right?
Well, I think there's a difference between, if you look at it from a product perspective and a lifestyle product. A fridge is not a lifestyle product. A car is very much a lifestyle product. So is things like phones and stuff. So
good point.
If you look at it from that perspective, that begets a lot of brand loyalty. It's things you use on a daily basis. Fridges, yeah, it does a job. It keeps my stuff cold and keeps my milk from going bad. But am I buying an LG this year and maybe a Samsung next year because this one's having? No, it's not seen like that, right?
I think the way to summarize it is, if it's something you use multiple times a day. I mean, I guess a fridge, you could say that if you're hungry. But
I don't lust after this fridge because it has this.
No, but that's what I mean. If you're using a device multiple times a day, I guess you have more of an attachment to it, right?
Yeah. But I know what you're saying, and I know what Trevor's saying too. There's some people that we talked about, how the automotive industry and how there's brand loyalty there for a lot of people, but there's some people that just, a car is just utilitarian thing. It's just from point A to point B.
I
don't care less.
People like that.
Yeah,
right?
and they'll buy one car, and in 4 or 5 years, and they'll buy another car.
Truthfully, that was me up until my friend told me go try a Tesla, and I was just like, "What's the big deal? It's a car." You know what I mean? I've never been a car person, and the tech enthusiast in me was like, "Oh my god, I have to have one!" Right?
Yeah, because that got you on the other end.
Yeah, 100%, and that's what makes Tesla so fascinating. It appeals to such a large range of people for different reasons. And I've never been into cars, and now look, like, I'm so involved in the community, and it's amazing. And I tell everyone,
and that's just the nature of the Teslas, because they built a very compelling product in its market segment. And I've owned a lot of. I'm probably the oldest guy in this panel here. I've owned a lot of cars over the years. And this brand, there's nothing that excites me more than this brand, because they get it. They understand that if you put this much time and effort into and make your product compelling, you've got a customer for life. People ask me all the time on the street, "How do you like your Tesla?" First thing out of my mouth, I would never buy anything else.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then you get that exact reaction. Really? Like, it's like either really as in, that guy's crazy, or really, tell me more. Right? Like, they want to know why. They're intrigued. Or they think you're crazy. Usually they think I'm crazy.
All right, so we got Bill in the chat, who's very attached to his fridge, just so you know.
Yes, I saw that. He
nothing. He must have one of those touch screens on his fridge.
What do you do to your fridge?
Martin's fridge is attached to his outlet, so I mean.
Well, okay. Well, I can see the direction that this.
Kyle says he's attached to his fridge because that's where the beer is.
There you go, Kyle.
Good one, Kyle.
Okay.
No, we've covered all the questions.
Yes.
I've kept up with them all. So,
closing remarks, guys. Start with Paul. Closing remarks of the event.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of kind of the same. I think we know what we can expect. Continuous improvement. This it's going to happen. Timelines might be a little off, but overall, I was pleased with today's session. I don't think there was a moment where investors are going to be maybe particularly happy because there wasn't that big, we have an S solid state battery or something like that. It'll be interesting to watch the stock over the next couple of days. But I think in terms of Tesla's mission, they continue to nail it.
Yep. Trev, your closing thoughts on tonight's...
I thought it was very well done, aside from the shareholders part. Thought it was very well done. Education, well put together, laid out what their plans are. The fact that Elon kind of tempered people's expectations yesterday on Twitter was good in a lot of ways. And it bodes well for the future. And I can't wait. I mean, the next two cars I plan on getting are going to have these cells in it, so I'm very happy about that. Don't know what it's going to bring at the end of the day, but it's just nice to see that they're going in this direction. And we haven't seen the end of this. We're going to see even more stuff from Tesla. So,
what do you mean you don't know what it's going to bring? Haven't you been paying attention, Trevor? It's going to bring 56% cost savings.
I'm not buying an electric car unless I can charge it in 3 seconds, and it'll go 3,000 miles on a charge.
Yes, and fly.
And wasn't there it's also going to bring 78% more happiness? I saw that on a slide. Right?
Oh, was there?
Yeah.
I am not happy unless it has a mustard dispenser in the dash.
Grey Poupon.
Yes.
Franklin, you're closing.
So I agree with Martin that the Raj's dance was the highlight of the presentation.
Yes. Raj, you're never gonna live that one down. Nor would you want to. I don't know why you would want to.
I think.
Sorry, it was my fault.
I think to echo what these guys were saying, I think the general direction that Tesla's taking, their overall mission, everything else is amazing. Not to be the downer here, but I thought the event as a whole was a little bit boring, truthfully. And
Bite your tongue.
But I mean, information-wise, it was good. I just think presentation, they're kind of limited on what they can do, and they did the best with what they had. And I guess maybe my expectations were more along the lines of Autonomy Day, and Autonomy Day was like so rich in information.
In depth.
Yeah, and I just loved how in depth they went, and I understand why they couldn't go in depth, probably because of they don't want to give away all their secrets, right? The competition. But I mean, overall, it was good and it was very informative, and it's cool to see the direction Tesla's taking. And I think given the constraints, they did a good job. So.
Yeah. To your point, they did say at the beginning, I remember them saying, well, we're going to tell you most of what's going on in tonight's thing, but there'll be a few things that we won't, that'll come down the pipe in the future. So, no, that's good. I echo exactly what you guys are saying. I think that what I took from it is, at the end of the day, I think Tesla is leaps and bounds ahead of the auto industry. And like I said, just seeing those engineers at the end there talking about stuff, they're pumped about the future. And that bodes well. That to me, that was interesting. And that was made me happy to know that, you just don't have a bunch of guys working and just grab a paycheck at the end of the day. They actually have a purpose and have a goal, whether it be personal or stuff. And also the very end, I realized that with this advantage that they have, that if any, like I know I said it earlier, but I'll reiterate it for anyone that didn't hear, any other car company that doesn't, follow Tesla's lead or advance what they're doing now and, get off their hands, they're going to go out of business. I hate to say it, like the Mazdas, like Trevor mentioned earlier, like the Mazdas, and there's a bunch of car companies I could name, but Mazda obviously comes to mind right away. Maybe even Honda. You could even say Honda, throw Honda in there. Who knows? Anyways, that's what I took from it, and I think it was a good event. I like the fact that even though for weeks Elon's been pumping this and getting this all pumped about it, and then at the end, like Trevor said last night, he tamed us down a little bit and said, "Whoa, listen, guys." But speaking of last night and tweets by Elon and Trevor, I want to thank Trevor. Take this one opportunity to thank Trevor for finally getting us waypoints.
Nice.
Oh,
thank you, Trevor.
Thank you, Trevor.
I don't have to lay claim to that. Many people have asked way before me, including my friend Rafael Santoni there, Tesla Tino. He's been asking it for a long time.
Yes.
I just happened to get Elon's attention at the right time. That's all. So.
and his answer was very reluctant. Like,
finally, okay, like, fine, we'll
okay.
Leave me alone. We're doing it.
Yeah, we'll do it in 2030. No, that was good, guys. Thanks very much for coming on and joining me. Sort of last minute. Well, not last minute, but sort of last minute for.
So much for the shortest podcast ever, eh?
No, you know what? I knew this one was going to go long.
100%.
Just to unfold and unravel everything and get everyone's opinions. Thanks to everyone in the chat room that took their time out and joined us and asked the questions and interacted with us. This is what makes the show. And anyone listening on the audio podcast of it. Thanks for listening. We'll be back maybe next week. I can't say for sure, but maybe next week.
Need more Tesla news. It's every 2 weeks for a podcast.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I have a feeling we'll have lots from this. A lot of stuff will come through from this. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Take
Thanks,
care.
guys. See you later.
everybody.